how you go about doing it, I'm going to kind of show you what I would recommend. And what I have here is just like a sample thesis and outline planner that has a couple things in it that I am going to pull so that I can show you how I would create this actual document. So if I were you, I would open up a blank document. There it is in all of its glory. And the first thing I would actually do is I would actually, I would probably do my template first. That makes more sense. This is why it's good to plan these things out. So I go back to my APA template. And I'm here. I cut out some of the searching. You can go from content, you can go to the content module down to APA style resources, and it's right here, the 101-603 APA formatting template. So I'm just going to download that. I have a million copies of this on my computer at this point, but it's fine. And it's the same template we used before, but I'm just going to change it around a little bit. Title of my essay. And so here I will make sure I'm centered and bolded, and I will say something like, I'll call this my, I don't know, something like that. And I'm going to change this to be my name, or you would change that to be your name. You'd want to change the due date and month year format. So it would look like this, month date. So it would be, today is the 27th. You'd probably want to put the due date on there. And then I don't know why that keeps writing up, but I would have the exact same title. And then I would follow this advice. I would go down here so that I didn't forget, and I would erase this because we'll be replacing it with our own reference. And then up here, I have the start of my paper. So I would probably, if I were you, I would save this so that you don't get confused with it being like template 500. So, you do your save as. Okay, and now it's saved. And then I would just start pulling things from my planner because your planner is set up in the paragraph format that you're going to be using in your paper. So I would ask myself things like, okay, did my teacher include anything, any feedback on the hook? Is this a good hook or not? I need to think about that. I'm going to say that this looks good because I am the teacher who wrote this example. So here we go. I'm starting my introduction. And then you can see that what I've added here for background or context ideas is, even though down here in my summary, I'm going to include that really important first sentence that gives all of the rhetorical information, I am going to introduce the article in this background context because I want to connect my hook to my thesis. So the purpose of this background context sentence, usually it's just a sentence, is to connect this hook that I had here to where I'm going with my thesis statement. So I'm going to do something like this. And I'm just going to put all these things together. And I'm going to copy and paste them into a paragraph. And then I'm going to read over it. And that's something that you should do, and you can do on your own, to see if I need to add any transitions and to make sure this actually stands up as a paragraph. And then to create my next situation, again, I'm going to create a paragraph from the major points that I had. I'm going to get rid of the word example. I don't need this stuff. And one thing that I'm going to do that everybody should practice doing, that you should all practice doing, is that I'm going to add attributive tags in front of all of my sentences. So I explained who wrote the article. This is a fake article written by me. And I'm going to think about what makes sense in the context of the context of the actual paragraph. And you can see what I've done here is I've added attributive tags in here. And if you read this out loud, you wouldn't even notice it. But at the beginning of every single one of these sentences, because I switched them around, so sometimes I used my last name, sometimes I used my pronoun, sometimes I referred to it as the article, and I used different words, I am constantly reminding the reader that these are the original author's thoughts, not my own. But I am adding it into this summary in a way that isn't super repetitive. So it's not like Shaw says every couple sentences. Okay. And so for this part, I've got the topic sentence. And I would carry that over. And again, this is looking like a mess. I'm going to clean it up at the end. I'm trying to think if I have like one. So you can see that I have these topic sentences. And in this sample, I didn't include actual examples, details, explanations, but I would include those details that I wanted to include about why I agree with the author's main idea. And then I have this example down here from the outside source support from Article 2. And I would put that in here. And this would be my opening sentence. I agree or disagree with the author's main idea that APA is hard for students to learn. And again, this is all just a fake paper that I wrote as an example. And then I would provide my examples why. I would say I agree with the author's main idea that APA is hard for students to learn. So I'm going to come up with some of those off camera for a second. And to back, I've added some details for a paragraph that goes over and adds in some more things. So I agree with the author's main idea that APA is hard for students to learn. And what I have in here, if you look, and you don't have to read it exactly, just this is the idea, like get a feel for what I'm looking for. And what you do in a summary response paragraph is that I'm adding in details like a quote from the article, and then I explain here why I think that it is good. And then here I talk a little bit about my outside source, because in this case, I think that my outside source ties in nicely. So I introduce my outside source, the one that I found on the database, and then I quote from it. And finally, I end with a concluding sentence that kind of sums up why I agree with the author's main idea. So that's what you want to create. You want to have your topic sentence that lays out your point. You want to have your supporting details, including some quotes from the article when applicable. If you can tie in your database source, if this is one of those paragraphs where you chose to do that, incorporate the database source, and then conclude with a nice sentence that explains sort of why you agreed or disagreed with the author's main idea in this case. A nice concluding thought that ties it back to what you said in the first opening sentence. So that's how I would create a body paragraph. And then I would just keep going, creating the rest of the main points based on the things that I had by carrying over the points and the ideas that I had over here in my thesis and outline planner after thinking about any feedback that you got directly from me on the planner. So that's pretty much what you need to do with this assignment. I will make this pretty and I will post it as a sample if you would like it in the announcement.